A leaked jail call has set the streets on fire. Rumors claim Ksoo begged his father, Abdul Robinson Sr., for forgiveness and to keep one final secret buried. But when his father refused, whispers say Ksoo made a deadly choice, reaching out to someone on the outside with a chilling mission. If blood can't be trusted, what lines are left uncrossed?
The leaked jail call. The call started out quiet, just the faint hum of the prison line and a deep breath from Ksoo. According to online chatter, this wasn't just another routine check-in with family. This was desperation. Rumors suggest Ksoo's voice was low, almost trembling, as he asked the one question he never thought he'd have to ask. "Pops, can we put this behind us?" People close to the situation claim Ksoo didn't stop there. He allegedly pleaded with Abdul Robinson Sr. not to mention certain things that, if spoken aloud in the wrong room, could shut the cell door on him forever. Street Talk says he reminded his father of the years they'd spent building a reputation together, of the sacrifices they'd made, of the loyalty that was supposed to be unbreakable. But the man on the other end of the line wasn't swayed. Reports claim Senior's voice stayed cold, even when Ksoo tried to pull at his heartstrings. Some say Senior told him flat out that the truth was already in motion, that nothing Ksoo said could undo the testimony already given in court. Others believe he hinted that his loyalty now belonged to his younger children, the ones still free, the ones he could still protect. This was the moment, insiders say, when the mood of the call shifted. The desperation in Ksoo's tone allegedly hardened into silence. The conversation ended quickly after that, leaving a gap where reconciliation could have been, but never was. And here's where the whispers get darker. Multiple unverified accounts claim that not long after that call, Ksoo reached out to someone on the outside. The alleged purpose? To make sure Senior could never speak again. Nothing official ties Ksoo to such a plot, but in the court of public opinion, the rumor alone was enough to ignite a firestorm. For those listening from the sidelines, the jail call wasn't just a family argument, it was a turning point. A father who'd already testified against his son refused to bend. A son, already staring down life without parole, allegedly began considering the unthinkable. In the streets, they say some secrets are worth killing for. Whether that's true here is still just speculation, but the call left everyone wondering, what exactly was Ksoo so desperate to keep buried?
Father's refusal. If the leaked jail call was the spark, Abdul Robinson Sr.'s refusal was the gasoline. According to multiple street accounts, when Ksoo asked his father for forgiveness and to keep one final secret locked away, Sr. didn't hesitate. People who claim to have heard about the exchange say Senior's tone was steady, almost cold, as if the decision had been made long before the phone rang. It wasn't just about testifying, they say. It was about breaking away from a cycle that had already swallowed too much of his life. Senior had been deep in the streets for decades. He'd seen friends buried, done time himself, and now faced serious health problems, diabetes, kidney issues, heart trouble. He reportedly told Ksoo that he wasn't going back to prison for anyone, not even his own blood. Rumors suggest he made it clear there would be no rewinding the clock, no second chances. Some even claim he warned Ksoo that if he was pushed, more truths could come out. To the street-minded, that's not just a refusal, it's a threat. And if you believe the whispers, that was the moment Ksoo's mind shifted from pleading to planning. But why draw such a hard line against his own son? Those close to Senior point to the younger kid still in his life, the daughter he wanted to walk down the aisle at her daddy-daughter dance, the son whose football games he dreamed of attending. In his mind, cutting ties with Ksoo might have been the only way to keep himself around for them. Of course, on the outside, that reasoning didn't matter. The code was clear: you never cooperate with law enforcement, especially not against family. In the streets of Jacksonville, Sr.'s name went from respected OG to pariah overnight. Social media lit up with insults, memes, and heated debates. Was he protecting his future or betraying his past? And here's where the story swerves into darker territory. Unconfirmed reports began circulating that after the call, Ksoo reached out to trusted contacts on the outside. The alleged goal was simple but deadly: silence his father before he could ever say more. There's no official evidence tying Ksoo to such a plan, but in a world where perception often matters more than proof, the rumor was enough to keep the streets buzzing. One thing was clear: whatever bond remained between father and son had been shattered beyond repair.
The alleged plot. What happened after that call is where the story takes a turn that's as chilling as it is murky. Street whispers claim that once Abdul Robinson Sr. shut his son down, Ksoo stopped thinking like a family member and started thinking like a man with nothing left to lose. According to unverified chatter from people who claim to know, Ksoo allegedly made a series of quiet moves from behind bars. It wasn't screaming threats over the phone or reckless bragging. It was calculated. Rumors say he reached out to one or two trusted names still loyal to him on the outside, people who had been with him long enough to understand what wasn't being said out loud. The alleged mission? To ensure Sr. could never testify again, never sit across from prosecutors and drop more names, never let certain details see daylight. Some online threads go as far as claiming Ksoo hinted at handling the problem permanently during coded conversations, though no official recordings of such talks have surfaced. In the streets, the idea of silencing someone isn't always literal. Sometimes it's intimidation, other times it's exile. But the rumors around this case? They lean towards something far more final. The story circulating says that a payout was discussed, with the promise of more if the job was done clean. None of this has been proven in court, and law enforcement hasn't released any formal accusations tying Ksoo to a plot against his own father. Still, in the court of public opinion, the whispers were enough to stain his image even deeper. In a scene already fractured by betrayal, the possibility that a son might try to erase his father crossed into territory few could comprehend. Some OGs in Jacksonville have openly said they wouldn't be surprised if the rumor had legs. Others think it's pure street gossip designed to stir the pot. But either way, the idea alone was enough to reignite tension, making the feud between father and son the most talked about rift in the city. Whether the plot was real or just a product of a rumor mill gone wild, one thing was certain: the damage was done. Even if no shot was ever fired, the trust was dead. And in the streets, that can be just as fatal.
Why the risk was so high? If the street rumors are even halfway true, Ksoo's alleged decision to target his father wasn't born out of pure rage. It was about survival. In a war zone like Jacksonville's ATK KTA feud, information is as dangerous as any bullet. And Abdul Robinson Sr. was sitting on a stockpile. Insiders say Sr. had been there for almost everything: alleged planning sessions, rides to and from certain spots, even knowing who was beefing with who on any given week. Whether or not he participated directly, his years in the game meant he had a mental map of events that prosecutors could only dream of. And after taking the stand once, what was to stop him from doing it again? Some of the streets believe Sr. knew far more than he ever revealed in court. That's what made the risk so heavy. If more cases were still open, if more indictments were waiting in the shadows, his cooperation could turn them from whispers into convictions. For Ksoo, already facing life without parole, the stakes couldn't have been higher. That's why the call hit so hard. Rumors suggest Ksoo had hoped to appeal to blood loyalty, banking on his father's silence to protect not just him, but other names tied to the streets. When that door slammed shut, the calculation changed. In the logic of the game, a loose end is a liability no matter the family bond. But this wasn't just about protecting himself.
Some claim there were deeper layers, financial interests, hidden alliances, even reputations that could collapse if certain stories came out. Street politics run on perception, and if a major figure like Sr. flipped completely, the ripple effect could tear down entire crews. That's what makes the rumors about a plot so dangerous, even if they're unproven. They play into the darkest corner of street reality. When trust is gone and survival is on the line, anyone can become a target. And in this case, if the whispers are to be believed, the target wasn't an enemy across town. It was the man who'd raised him, taught him the rules, and in Ksoo's mind, broken the biggest one of all. Whether it was a calculated move or just street gossip, the risk Abdul Robinson Sr. posed was undeniable, and that's what kept the rumor alive long after the call ended.
The streets react. The minute the whispers about the jail call and the alleged plot started spreading, Jacksonville lit up like a switchboard. Every barber shop, every corner store, every block with a folding chair out front, people were talking. In a city where word travels faster than any official statement, perception became reality almost overnight. For many, the idea that Ksoo might have turned his sights on his own father wasn't shocking. It was just the next step in a feud that had already shredded every traditional line of loyalty. They pointed to the courtroom betrayal, the cold tone of Abdul Robinson Sr.'s refusal, and the years of bloodshed between ATK and their enemies. To them, this wasn't some far-fetched movie plot. It was the streets doing what the streets do when survival's on the line. But others couldn't wrap their heads around it. In their eyes, no matter how deep the betrayal, family was still family. They argued that plotting against your own blood, especially the man who raised you, was crossing into territory that stripped away every last ounce of honor. Even in a world built on codes and contradictions, that move would be irredeemable. Social media became the main battlefield for these opinions. Facebook threads turned into shouting matches. Instagram stories carried cryptic captions like "Loyalty ain't what it used to be" and "Blood don't mean you're safe." Rap pages and YouTube channels began posting analysis videos, breaking down the rumored assassination angle like it was an episode of a true crime series. The reactions weren't limited to civilians and fans. According to Street Chatter, some OGs in the city started quietly distancing themselves from both father and son. For them, the public fallout was bad business, too much attention, too much drama, and too many eyes from law enforcement. Ironically, the rumor also deepened divisions within ATK's circle. Some allegedly felt Ksoo's hand was being forced, that a loose end like Sr. could sink everyone. Others saw it as a line that should never be crossed no matter the risk. And that's what kept the story alive. Every retelling adding new layers, every conversation pushing the narrative further from fact and deeper into legend. Whether it happened or not stopped being the point. The streets had already decided this was part of Ksoo's story, and in a culture built on storytelling, that decision is often more permanent than any official record.
The larger war. The drama between Ksoo and Abdul Robinson Sr. didn't happen in a vacuum. It was just one ripple in a tidal wave called the ATK KTA War. Long before the courtroom testimony, long before the rumored assassination plot, the streets of Jacksonville were already a chessboard soaked in blood. ATK, or Ace's top killers, had deep roots, and Sr. wasn't just another figure on the sidelines. He was seen by many as a guiding hand, someone who brought organization and old-school discipline to the crew. On the other side was KTA, Kill Them All, a crew born from tragedy, retaliation, and their own code of survival. Every shot fired between these camps carried years of history. When Sr. flipped in court, it wasn't just a father testifying against his son. It was a symbolic crack in ATK's armor. For allies and enemies alike, it sent a message that even the inner circle could fracture. That's why, according to street rumors, the alleged plot to silence Sr. wasn't just personal, it was strategic. In a war where perception is power, letting your own father openly cooperate with the other side's advantage was like handing over your playbook. Every major conflict in this feud had been fueled by revenge. Zion Brown's death in 2017 lit the first match. The 2018 shooting that left Youngin Ace injured but killed 3 of his closest friends fanned the flames. The murders of Bibby, Boss Goon, and Lil Buck kept the fire raging. Each one was more than a killing. It was a message, and it demanded an answer. So, when the rumor spread that Ksoo might be trying to handle his father, people connected it to the same cycle. The logic was grim, but familiar. In this war, anyone who could hurt you, whether they wore your colors or shared your blood, was fair game. And that's the tragedy of the larger conflict. The lines between friend and foe had blurred so completely that survival sometimes meant turning inward. For outsiders, it might look unthinkable. For those in the middle of it, it was just another move in a game with no end and no mercy. In the end, whether the assassination rumor was true or not, it became part of the ATK KTA narrative, a cautionary tale of how deep the war had cut and how even family ties could snap under the weight of loyalty, fear, and revenge.
Cultural, economic, and social impact. The Ksoo-SR fallout and the rumors surrounding it didn't just stir gossip, they struck at the heart of Jacksonville's street culture. In a city where the code of loyalty is held almost sacred, even the idea of a son plotting against his father sent shockwaves. It blurred the last lines that still separated business from betrayal. Economically, the feud fed into a cycle that's been making violence profitable. Diss tracks, viral social media posts, and YouTube videos turned real bloodshed into marketable content. For up-and-coming rappers and street figures, the more brutal the story, the bigger the audience. That demand only fuels more conflict. Socially, the damage was deeper. Younger kids in the neighborhoods saw this as a blueprint. Family ties could be broken. Trust was optional, and survival was the only real rule. Community leaders say this mindset is creating a generation that measures respect by how far you're willing to go, not by who you protect. Whether the assassination plot was real or rumor, it became part of a larger narrative, one where money, reputation, and survival outweigh even the closest blood bonds, and where the culture itself pays the ultimate price.